This is ESBR Boxing, and I'm delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg for a big fight breakdown here. We're previewing the action this weekend in San Antonio, Texas, where we have some world title action. Brilliant card, I have to say. Top of the bill, we've got Murodjon Akhmadaliev against Marlon Tapales. Two belts, two belts obviously, at Super-Bantamweight on the line here. Akhmadaliev, the current IBF and WBA champion. Obviously, the other belts in that division are owned by Stephen Fulton. I'm sure we'll maybe mention his name later on this video. But Elliot, thanks for joining me. I'm excited for this chat. How are you keeping?
Very good, Paul. I'm very, very, very well excited for this card. Frankly, excited for this main event. Like we said, there's some big names on the card as well. I know you're going to take us through the tail of the tape, but I'll just mention some of the names that are on this card just to whet the appetite before you give us the tail of the tape. And we get deep into this discussion. So, like you said, I've got Akhmadaliev versus Tapales, but Jesse Magdalena's on the card. We've got Rodriguez versus Hernandez. We've already broken that down, haven't we, in a previous video? You guys check that out on the channel. Galao is fighting. That's a WBC international flyweight title there against Moises Calleros. And from a prospect perspective, you've got Madrimov on there, Israel Madrimov and Mark Castro. So hell of a card in San Antonio. But we are focusing on the main event today. And Paul, I'm going to pass it back to you here for a bit of a breakdown, obviously on records, tail of the tape, as we always like to do, before we get into maybe discussing the outcomes.
Yeah, thanks. As you mentioned, a brilliant card and none better than the main event, I suppose. Akhmadaliev needs no introduction, really. He's an elite fighter, despite having just 11 fights as a professional. He is fighting Marlon Tapales here, and a quick chill of the tape of both men. Akhmadaliev 11-0 with 8 stoppage victories. He's just 28 years old, obviously an Uzbek fighter. Southpaw as well, 5'5.5", and he's got a 68-inch reach. He's the current IBF and WBA Super champion down at Super Bantamweight, and he is facing Tapales, who is kind of a bit of a veteran. He's had 39 fights in his professional career. He has won 36 of them and lost just 3. Of those 36 wins, he's got 19 KOs. However, he has been stopped twice in his 3 defeats. He's from the Philippines. He is also a southpaw, 5'4", and has a 65-inch reach. I think it's worth noting here, Elliot, that Tapales is a former WBO champion down at bantamweight, so he is a world champion. He has been a world champion in his career before. As we mentioned, huge fight in San Antonio, Texas here on a brilliant card. But yeah, throwing it back to you, Elliot, just what do you really think of this fight? Do you think it's competitive? Do you think this is probably a routine victory for Akhmadaliev?
Well, I don't think it's routine, no. I think it is going to be competitive. I'm really looking forward to this fight, frankly. I think, like you say, I suppose there's more miles on the clock, isn't there? With Tapales, like 31, like you said, and he's been in 39 fights, but lost only 3 times, 2 stoppages. We know that Akhmadaliev carries power, don't we? Obviously, we've seen that. Obviously, you said there, obviously, with the KO percentages that he's got. We've seen him beat some decent names, to be fair. Obviously, like Ronnie Rios. I actually saw him the first time I saw him when he split decision. Daniel Roman actually was the first fight I actually watched him fighting. But Jose Velasquez is on his record as well for UD victory. So I suppose I don't think it's going to be routine. No, I think he'll win. Frankly, I do think Akhmadaliev will win. But I think, to be honest with you, this is the sort of fight that I almost want to see him in. Like, you want to see him against guys. He's only fought 11 times. You want to see him against guys. He's going to fight, obviously, in championship fights against guys that have got records that 20 fights plus, maybe 25 plus. But yeah, this obviously guys bringing experience. So I think he'll win, but I don't think it'll be routine either.
Yeah, interesting there. I completely agree with you. I think Akhmadaliev will win. However, we might have a slight bit of disagreement, as I think this could potentially be routine enough for Akhmadaliev. If I'm being honest, you mentioned some of the names he's beaten there. Obviously, Danny Roman, Ronnie Rios, Jose Velasquez, some brilliant names there. Became world champion in just his 8th fight as a pro against Daniel Roman. It was a close fight, but he won it in the end. And you look at Tapales, yes, he's got a good record. He's former world champion. He lost to Ryosuke Iwasa back in 2019 in December. And then since then, he's kind of moved up. He's moved up to Super Bantam, and his fights have been routine enough. I don't think there's been a real problem in the opposite corner, if you know what I mean. I think Tapales has been the A side in most of his fights, at Super Bantamweight. However, I think that is most definitely not the case here. I don't really think he might have had the best preparation in the lead up to fighting someone of the ilk of Akhmadaliev. Akhmadaliev, widely regarded as the best or second or third best in this division, obviously holds two of the four world titles. And I think it is worth mentioning, although this is a preview and a breakdown of the Akhmadaliev fight, it is worth mentioning. Obviously, Stephen Fulton holds the other two world title belts, and he is supposedly fighting the one, the only Inoue. Um, and his first fight at Super Bantamweight, it was meant to happen sooner, but it's kind of been postponed, looking like it could be end of May, June now for that fight, Inoue against Fulton. But my question, kind of throwing it back to you, Elliot, is up till now, obviously we haven't seen how this fight goes. Everything could change. Tapales could win. But up to now, although he's had only 11 fights as a pro, do you do you regard Akhmadaliev as the best super bantamweight in the world? Do you think he's a bit behind Stephen Fulton? Do you think there's other names who are above him? Where do you kind of see him ranking and sitting at super bantamweight right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I probably have to put him. I probably rank him just slightly beneath Stephen Fulton, frankly. Simply for the reason, obviously, like you said, he's had 11 fights, and Fulton's what 21-0 or something. And so, I think we've seen Fulton fought. She fought Daniel Roman in the Figueroa. I still think I put Fulton just slightly ahead of Akhmadaliev, but that's probably, to be honest with you, mostly down to kind of probably a preference on style and general sort of, I suppose, exposure. Frankly, for me, I think that's obviously the fight we want to see down in that division. To be perfectly honest, I think, like you said, I do think Akhmadaliev will come through this against Tapales. I think when I say like routine, I think not routine. I don't actually think it'd be a stoppage. I think he might actually go points with him. But I do expect him to win and win sort of comprehensively. When you're looking around the other names that division, like Neary, there's other guys sort of kicking around there. I don't really see it being that busy outside of these two that we want to see fight, which would be Fulton and Akhmadaliev. So that's the fight I want to see next. Do I think Fulton will come through Inoue? Don't know. I don't know actually. I don't know. Yeah, that's for another breakdown, isn't it? But I do think that's the fight we want to see. But I would actually, to be honest with you, favour Stephen Fulton if they were fighting. Say he was fighting where they have next rather than Inoue. I would favour Fulton at this time. But that's subject to change depending on how things go at the weekend, depending on how Fulton goes against Inoue. Yeah, but that's where I sit at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting fight and one I hope we do see in the future. I'm afraid that's all we have time for, though, Elliot. I've enjoyed this breakdown. Obviously, Akhmadaliev Tapales fighting in San Antonio, Texas this weekend. Two world titles at Super Bantamweight on the line. So yeah, definitely tune into that fight. It's a great card. A few big names on there as well. More world title action. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, just one of the fighters on the bill. But yeah, thanks once again, Elliot. I appreciate you jumping on here. And be sure, guys watching, to check out all of the rest of our content. We've got interviews with fighters going up on a weekly basis. We've got betting shows, big fight breakdowns. Obviously, are the best thing on the channel. Our previews as well, Elliot. So yeah, just be sure to check out all the other content, guys. And Elliot, once again, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you guys for watching.